the faculty in the Department of English, Theater, and Speech at Bethany College, a member of the board of the Historical Association, and director of its Oral History Project. This afternoon, January 10th, 1986, I'm pleased to be visiting with Sidney Johnson, who was a descendant of an early settler in the Johnstown area, Gustaf Johnson. Sidney is also able to tell us a lot about the broomcorn industry, the Depression era, and other matters of interest. So here we have a picture of your grandparents, right? Gustaf Johnson and his wife, what was her name? Carolina. She was a daughter of Anders, I believe.
Right.
Who was the child in this picture?
That was Albert.
That was Albert. Now, you have written a very interesting history of your grandfather. So why don't you just read this for us so we can get a lot of details about your grandfather, Gustaf Johnson.
Okay, I'll do that. My grandfather, Gustaf Johnson, was born in Hova, Västergötland, Sweden, on October the 20th, 1830. He was married in Sweden to Lotta Persdotter, July the 21st, 1858. And a daughter, Selma, was born October 1859. When his daughter was 7 years old, his wife died. He decided to take his daughter to America. So in the year of 1868, 3 years after the Civil War, Gustaf Johnson and his daughter Selma, then 9 years old, arrived in New York. The voyage was long and wearisome across the stormy Atlantic, from New York by train to Chicago, and on to St. Louis, and then by boat to Kansas City.
By boat to Kansas City?
Right.
Down those various rivers, huh?
From there, by wagon train, but most of the journey was on foot.
Even before they got to Kansas City?
No.
Oh, I mean after Kansas City?
After Kansas City.
Okay.
They walked practically all the way.
From Kansas City here?
Right. It is definitely known that many hardships were endured traveling toward the Smoky Valley, principally bad weather and hunger. When they arrived in the Smoky Valley, they stayed with a distant relative, a Gustaf Johnson, who had arrived in America in 1865 with several other Swedes and had settled near Lindsborg, Kansas, along the Smoky Hill River.
May I ask, Marie, Mom, said that is this another Gustaf Johnson, right?
Well, it was a relative, kind of far off.
And she said that he befriended a lot of settlers that he helped out a lot of settlers who came to Lindsborg.
You're right.
Do you happen to know where his farm was or his homestead?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Grandfather was afraid of floods, so he decided to leave this fertile valley and move southward, and in 1868 homesteaded a tract of land 6 miles south of Lindsborg in New Gotland Township, McPherson County, Kansas. At this time, in 1868, there were only 17 people in Lindsborg. Their first home, a dugout, was made in a little knoll close to the banks of Indian Creek. In this humble home, my father, John A. Johnson, was born. My grandfather got a job building railroads. The headquarters were in Junction City, about 50 miles away. He would walk the 50 miles to Junction City and would camp there during the working months. He left his daughter with some friends in Lindsborg. When fall arrived and the weather became cold, and when there was no more work, he walked back to his little home, the dugout. Here he and his daughter managed to survive the winter months and to await the arrival of Carolina Anderson from Sweden, whom he married in 1869. My grandmother was also born in Hova, Västergötland, Sweden, on December the 20th, 1846. Grandfather continued working on the railroad, leaving my grandmother and Selma alone for weeks. One day, a tall brown Indian peered into the tiny opening of the dugout. Grandmother was sure it had been a terrible mistake to come to this forsaken prairie. They gave him some salted pork. He smelt on it and gave it back. The Indians did not like salt. Then they gave him a loaf of bread, and he went on his journey. Is it any wonder that my grandmother often said, "Why did I ever leave beautiful Sweden?" One day a prairie fire threatened the dugout, and grandmother carried water from the creek and kept the thatched roof wet, and also burned a little fire guard around the dugout. The fire swept by, and the house was saved. Later, a log cabin was built. Grandfather was able to buy a cow, a team of oxen, and a half a dozen chickens, using his earnings from the railroad. They just about lost the cow one day when she followed a herd of Texas longhorns. Grandfather grabbed the rope and followed the herd until they camped for the night about 20 miles from home. He was able to get his cow back, and the following day led her back home. The following winter brought many problems. Because of a drought and grasshoppers, there was only a small stack of hay for the oxen and cow. One day a tribe of Indians stole the entire supply of winter feed. Then they gathered leaves along the creek, and the oxen and cow survived the winter.
Well, that's a very interesting story, showing really what pioneer life was like. I was interested, did you hear these things? Did your father tell you these things, or do you remember from, you knew your grandfather, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
You didn't know?
My grandfather died in April 9th, 1895.
Mm-hmm.
So,
as a young man, relatively.
Right, he was only 60 years old then.
Mm-hmm.
He was born 1830.
Mm-hmm.
But my grandmother, see, she lived, and I knew her well.
And she told you a lot of these things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmother told me, and then my father told me.
I was interested, this was in the days when those cattle drives were taking place from Texas?
Right.
Up through, they would have gone through east of here, I suppose. East of
yes,
Lindsborg.
they come from Texas through Oklahoma. And then
were they going to Abilene then? And
right.
Going to Abilene.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. Now, we have a picture here of your father, right?
That's right. That's my father and mother.
And his name was?
John Alford.
Oh, maybe does your article that you have, does that mention all the children of?
No, I just.
We'd better. John Alford, was he the oldest of the?
Right.
Who were the other children of Gustaf Johnson?
My father John. He was the oldest, and he was born in 1872.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Herman Johnson.
This was
this is his brother's.
Marie's father.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And he was born in
1874.
1874.
And then it was Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And he was born in 1876.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Frank.
Mm-hmm. And
then they had another boy, but he died in infancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Gust and Albert.
Mm-hmm. Okay, who was it that went to Detroit to work for Cadillac?
Frank.
Frank
farmed a while. That was after Grandma moved to town. Then he farmed a while, and then he decided to go to Detroit. So he worked for Cadillac in Detroit.
I see. And Selma was a daughter by Gustaf's first wife.
Right. She was half-sister to my father.
Mm-hmm. And she was married to...
August Stolberg.
August Stolberg. Mm-hmm. August Stolberg. In the Johnstown area?
Right.
Yeah, I see. And then, of course, the other daughter was...
there was no...
Oh, there was no other daughter.
No other
daughter, right. Okay. Now, so this is your father, John Alfred. And who was his wife, your mother?
He married Annie Sophie Larson.
Annie Sophie Larson. Mm-hmm. Now, you've also written a little article about your father, so let us hear that.
Okay. My father, John A. Johnson, was born November the 14th, 1872, in the dugout, which was their home. Several of his 5 brothers were born in this humble home. Once a rattlesnake dangled from the grass roof above the cradle in which a baby slept. Grandmother snatched the cradle away just as the snake fell. My father told me about many of the hardships that the Kansas pioneers experienced. In 1865, Salina consisted of 2 log houses, 1 house built of lumber, and a sawmill. Salina was the closest place at this time from which they could get supplies. There were no railroads, no bridges, or roads to follow at that time. So in order to cross the Smoky Hill River, they had to ford it about 2.5 miles north of Johnstown at Shields Ford. It took my grandfather 2 days to go to Salina for supplies. He would take along a few sacks of wheat, and when he arrived at the Smoky Hill River, he would carry the sacks of wheat across to the other side as the team of oxen he was driving weren't able to pull the load. After he purchased his supplies, it would take him another day to get home. Sometimes he had trouble crossing the river. If there had been large rains and the river was high, he had to wait until he thought the river was safe to cross. The Kansas and the Pacific Railroad was built from Salina to McPherson, and in 1878 it was completed to McPherson. My father was 6 years old when he watched the first locomotive pull across the prairie through their land. In 1872, New Gotland Lutheran Church was organized. The Mission Church was organized in 1893. The church was built in 1894.
You're talking about New Gotland Church.
Right. But, yeah, that's right. During my younger years, our family attended the Lutheran Sunday School and church service in Johnstown. The services were all in Swedish. We always walked to church, as it was located on the northwest corner of our farm. This building was first located in New Gotland, but when they built a new church there, the old Lutheran church was moved to Johnstown. Moving this building was a big project. They used horses and mules, and everything was going smoothly on the flat ground until they came to the hills. This is when the problems came. They hitched up 20 horses and mules, but the hills were too steep and long. They were not able to pull the church any farther, so it was stuck on Highway 81, half of the distance between New Gotland and Johnstown. Then the only thing that they could do was to tear the building down. The material was hauled in lumber wagons to Johnstown and the church was rebuilt.
You never have, there hasn't been a picture of that church, has there, that you know of, that survives?
They have a picture at the Lutheran Church in Lindsborg.
Oh, there's a picture of that church in the Lutheran Church in Lindsborg. That's very interesting. Are you going to talk more about Johnstown in what you've written about yourself?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Now, these pictures that we have here.
That was my wife.
This is your wife's
father and mother.
And what are their names?
Robert A. Johnson.
Robert A. Johnson. And,
right.
And her name was?
She was a Beckman.
A Beckman. And where did they live?
You mean when they first came here? Well, they worked on the bean farm.
Oh, they were bean farm employees.
They worked there.
When they first came.
Right. Well, I wouldn't know exactly if it's right at first, but I know Robert, he met his wife there. They both worked there at the bean farm.
So they were married after they got here.
Right.
And this.
Well, wait a minute. I'll take that back. They were married in Sweden.
I see.
Right.
Did they, as far as you know, did they come directly to Lindsborg?
I don't know.
But his name was Robert Johnson.
Right.
And this is also.
That's Edna's mother.
The same lady as
right.
This picture. And what was her first name again? Do you remember? Well, anyway, these are pictures of your wife's parents.
Right.
Okay. Then let us hear about what you have written about your own history.
I was born in Johnstown, Kansas on October the 28th, 1904. My parents were John Alfred and Annie Sophie Johnson. They named me Sidney Alfred. At this time I had a sister, Edith, who was 2 years old on October the 23rd. I have many happy memories of our home. I am grateful that my parents loved us and wanted us to know Jesus Christ. I am thankful for that Christian heritage. I learned to know about my Savior early in life, when I was a young boy. In the Old Testament, we read of the godly heritage of Israel and how often they failed and disappointed the Lord. I know I failed him often. Johnstown was a little country town many years ago, located 25 miles south of Lindsborg, Kansas, which included a general store.
This is what we have a picture of here, isn't it?
Right. That's when my uncles run the store.
Your uncles? Now, who were
Randberg was the first person to run the store, and then he had.
What was his name?
Randberg.
Renberg.
Randberg. R-A-N-B-U-R-G.
R-A-N-B-U-R-G.
Right.
Was he the one that was originally responsible for trying to get Johnstown started?
Yes, he was one of the main ones. They had the post office right in the general store. And after he'd been there a while, then he sold it to Pete Fisher. And then Pete Fisher kind of got a general store, so they had a general store there. And after a few years, then my uncle Oscar and Gus Larson run the store, managed the store till in the 1900s.
Now their name was Larson. Now how does that fit in with you, their being your uncles?
Mother's brother. My mother
was a Larson.
And Uncle Oscar and Gus were brothers to my mother.
I see. Okay. So this is the Larson Brothers Groceries. Do you happen to know who the people that are pictured here in
Yes,
would be?
yes, I do. I have it written on this.
Okay, we have a, let's see.
From left to right is Albert Larson. That's another uncle of mine. He was just there at the time when they took the picture. Then it was Oscar Larson. And there's a bird hanging there.
Yes, I see the bird.
There's a pelican, and he was shot by Albert.
A pelican.
Yes. And then it was Gustaf Johnson. He was one of the owners. And at that time, Mrs. Victor Larson, she was married to my uncle Victor, and the little baby there was Leo Larson.
Leo?
Right.
Leo Larson.
And then Carl Larson, that was Oscar and Emma's son, and Eva Larson was their daughter.
The two little children. The two children.
The one of them.
Yeah, I see.
The girl. And then Emma Larson, that was the wife of Oscar Larson.
So these are all relatives of your mother.
Right. Right.
Okay, now you can continue with what you were reading when I interrupted you with the picture.
Wonder where I
Yeah, Johnstown was a little country
town. Start there then?
Yes.
Johnstown was a little country town many years ago, located 25 miles south of Salina, Kansas, which included a general store with a post office, a creamery, a church, a Union Pacific station, which was an old boxcar, also a large platform along the Union Pacific Railroad, a stockyard where livestock were loaded for the Kansas City market. There was no rural mail delivery at that time, so the people had to pick up their mail at Johnstown post office. In the busy season, the boys and girls would fetch the mail, if it wasn't too far to walk. In the wintertime, the men would love to gather at the post office. If it was very cold, they would gather around the pot-belly stove. Here the latest news was heard as to crops, sickness, death, school programs, and various community activities. One of the old pioneers said, "Here everything is discussed and cussed." In August 1908, rural mail routes out of Lindsborg post office were established.
So that's what you have written about. Anything more that the railroad, there were several trips that the railroad made to Johnstown.
There was a train, they called it the freight train. It made one trip a day. And then they had the passenger train. It started out from Salina and went to McPherson, and it made 2 trips a day. Started in the morning and went back, and then in the afternoon. And the train was, let's see, the freight train only ran 6 days. It didn't run on Sunday, but the passenger train 7 days a week.
And they shipped cattle there from.
They shipped a lot of cattle, and then a lot of, for the store, things were unloaded there, on the platform, And
so they were really in Johnstown there. How many buildings? There was this general store, and then they had a chapel. What other buildings would there have been? I understand there was a boxcar that served as a kind of train station.
That's right. There was an old boxcar, window at each end, and then it had a door.
So then there was a chapel and the general store, but there weren't any other buildings except
there was the creamery.
A creamery. A building existed as a separate building.
Right.
As south of the general store, or
creamery was on the east side of the railroad track.
Oh.
And there was they had a big cream separator. And the farmers that had a lot of cows, they would haul their milk to this creamery.
To be separated?
To be separated every day.
Oh.
And then they'd sell the cream and take the skim milk home, feed it to chickens or hogs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they wanted to, they could take the cream home and make butter out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd come from a long distance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Aunt Selma, that was Dad's half-sister,
mm-hmm.
he lived just about 3 miles
mm-hmm.
from the creamery.
Mm-hmm.
And she hauled the milk down every day.
In a wagon.
In a wagon. I don't remember when the creamery quit.
Mm-hmm.
But I can remember when we were small, that was after they had quit there, we'd go down there and play.
Now this Renberg that you mentioned, was he the one that they laid out streets? There was a kind of a map of streets that they...
Yes, they laid out maps.
Was there kind of a group of men or company of men that did this, that wanted to get the place started as a town? Renberg was one of them.
Yeah, Renberg, he was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say he's the one that started
Mm-hmm.
and they laid out some streets, but
Mm-hmm.
and named them, and I can't remember the names of the streets.
Yes. Okay. Now, broomcorn was, I understand, one of the early crops in the area, right?
Right.
You have written also something about the broomcorn industry. And why don't you tell us about that from what you have written? We also have some pictures here that can be used at times if you need to refer to them. Probably a lot of people don't know what broomcorn looked like. I think, well, here are a couple of pictures of these pictures were taken down in the Old Mill Museum.
Oh.
Well, they're on the north side of the, I guess they call it Heritage Square. There's an old building there in which they have a whole room devoted to the broomcorn, and they have these samples there. So this is these are very old machines that you're talking that
right.
in these
right.
pictures that they have in the museum. So that's about how tall did that broomcorn grow?
It was about 9 to 10 feet
about
tall.
9, 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And here is
that's the brush right there.
This is a brush, which always appeared at the head of it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The
this
head.
Yeah.
The head
the
of
brush.
the.
That's what made the brooms.
Yes.
The brush.
Uh-huh. And so, why don't you start reading what you have written about the broomcorn industry?
Broomcorn. Broomcorn was at one time the major cash crop for McPherson farmers, and 1/7 of all broomcorn produced in the United States was produced in McPherson County. And from our state, Kansas supplied at least 1/3 of the United States supply in 1900. The income from broomcorn in McPherson County in 1900 was $2,938,500.
It's a lot of money.
The broomcorn, that is the brush, would bring as much as $100 per ton. The average yield was 1 ton to 3 acres. If the weather was good, and on good fertile soil, the yield would be higher. The broomcorn seed is planted in the spring a little later than corn. It is a sorghum, usually in May. It was planted in rows about 40 to 42 inches apart. It was cultivated until it was about 3 feet tall. After this stage, the plants would shade the ground, so generally the weeds were no problem. Around 7 to 8 weeks, the head forms, and the cane grows to a height of from 8 to 10 feet. By early fall, it is ready to be harvested.
That would be September or October?
Yeah, that's right. September would be September and October. Harvesting broomcorn took a large crew, around 10 to 30 men and women, as all of the work was done by hand. Tabling is the first step in harvesting broomcorn. The men start at the edge of a field, 2 rows apart, and work forward into the field, breaking the cane about 2.5 feet behind them, and letting the upper ends of the stalks lie crosswise across one another, making a table like this.
Yeah. Quite a complicated operation.
This was very heavy work when the cane was thick and the weather hot. The second step, men with sharp knives would cut the heads or broom straws, seeds and all, leaving stems on the heads around 10 to 15 inches, and pile them carefully on this table. The butts pointing one way, ready for the men with the wagons which gathered the crop. As soon as a wagon was filled, it is taken to the scraper. The seeds are scraped from the straws on heads.
Is this what we have here?
That's the broomcorn shed. Over here is the horsepower that pulled the broomcorn scraper, and the broomcorn scraper is kind of hid here, so you can't see it. And these are the people that were working the broomcorn. Here's the team of horses bringing in a wagon to be scraped.
Was that all those people? Was the whole crew that worked in this operation?
Right, right.
On what farm was that?
This was on Gustaf Johnson's farm. Pictures
on your grandfather's farm.
And there's their big house they built.
Is that house standing?
No, that's the house that was hit by lightning. About a couple of years before. No, Grandma just moved to town, and Uncle Frank was living there, and then lightning struck.
Okay.
So that's on my grandfather's
And
farm.
how did the power come to the horses? Can you explain that?
Well, the horsepower, what we called, was a large cogwheel. It must have been at least 6 feet across. And the cogs would be downwards to a smaller cogwheel. And you'd hitch the horses up to that, and that'd go around, and he'd turn this big cogwheel and then this little one. And from this cogwheel, they called it a tumbling rod, and that must have been around 10 feet long, to a jack, they called it. And that had a big wheel on it, and they'd put a belt on that to the scraper.
And that the scraper worked real fast, did it?
Well, the scraper had 2 cylinders with spikes in them, and they worked crosswise, like I said here, like I have in my letter.
This would be, this is a small one, but spikes like that.
That's right. The one we had was just a little wider, so 2 men could feed it.
This machine must have been in the very early days and before these bigger operations.
Well, later on, they got rid of this, and then they got chain scrapers, so you didn't have to hold the broom.
Okay. Now, I interrupted you when I brought out this picture, but maybe you can find your place and continue with what you had said about that.
The second step, men with sharp knives would cut the heads or broom straws, seeds and all, leaving stems on the heads around 10 to 15 inches and pile them carefully on the table. The butts pointing one way, ready for the men with the wagons which gathered the crop. See, I guess I read that.
That's okay.
As soon as a wagon was filled, it is taken to the scraper where the seeds are scraped from the straws or heads.
So that's the function of the scraper, to get rid of the seeds.
Right. By the scraper was a long table where the brush were unloaded. Here is where most of the women folk worked, arranging the brush in a long flat row by pulling the butt ends toward them against a circular board fastened along one side of the table. The heads all lie away from them and close together. At the same time, the brush must be sorted and all the crooked and off type thrown out to be scraped and stacked separately. The brush is now ready for the scraper. The scraper has 2 revolving cylinders with spikes running in the opposite direction. It is run by horsepower. The horsepower is pulled by 4 horses. The man working by the scraper takes the brush by the stems and holds the brush until the seed is removed. The seed falls to the ground and were of little use except for replanting. Even the chickens turned it down as feed. The brush, after being scraped, is laid away on long poles in the broomcorn shed, which is open on all sides.
We don't have a picture of the broomcorn shed, do we?
Right there.
Oh, this is the broomcorn shed.
It's open on all sides, all around. You just got a roof on it. The brush, after being scraped, is laid away on long poles in the broomcorn shed, which is open on all sides so that the air can get to the brush and cure it. The broomcorn must be arranged in layers only a few inches thick and only a few inches apart, one layer over the other from the ground to the roof. After curing for several days, the brush is stacked on the ground under the broomcorn shed, ready to be baled and sent to market. The broomcorn bales would be rolled on long poles to be loaded on the wagon as they were large and very heavy. The broomcorn bales are now ready to be hauled to McPherson or Lindsborg to be shipped out. There was a broom factory in Lindsborg, just north of where the old high school building was located. There were others in town that made brooms. My Uncle Oscar Larson was one such person.
This Oscar Larson that you talked about, there was another Oscar Larson in Lindsborg, wasn't there?
Yes.
But this is not the same Larson. No. I have some pictures here of well, these must have been taken, well, in the Old Mill Museum, in the Heritage Square, in that certain building. They have the whole procedure displayed there, the various machines that were used. Here is one, for example, of a broom that's been made and is ready to be trimmed or cut on the bottom by a certain... Apparently those machines must have been taken from the Lindsborg, one of the Lindsborg broom factories. Have you been in that part of the museum?
This is where they made the brooms.
Yeah. This is a blade that cuts the bottom, shapes the bottom.
See, my Uncle Oscar, I seen his machinery, how he made brooms.
Oh, this might have been from Oscar Larson.
It could be.
This would be where the where it was tied, probably. Probably before this stage.
My uncle had, that's right. They put them in here, you know, and that's when they tied them.
Mm-hmm. And this would be where they cut them off.
There's where, yeah.
Where they trim the bottom.
The broom is just about ready.
It's been tied in this process, and then it's to be trimmed on the bottom here. Okay.
Now the broomcorn era ended shortly after the turn of the century. However, as late as 1918, there was still some in the area, and that was the last year I helped to harvest broomcorn.
1918.
1918. One of the big reasons why broomcorn was discontinued was on account of the chinch bug infestation.
The chinch bugs came into the broomcorn.
Got so many chinch bugs that they couldn't raise hardly anything, so they just had to quit raising broomcorn.
Well, when did wheat come in as a major crop?
That's when they started to raise wheat all over.
After 1918.
And the wheat done real well after the broomcorn.
Well, that's fascinating, what you have told us about the very complete story about the broomcorn
Well, this is the way I remember it.
Well, good. Now, you've also got something to share about the Depression era, don't you?
Well, I did write a
That
little.
would be interesting to have recorded a permanent record of what the Depression was like in your viewpoint and how you experienced it.
The Great Depression and the dark days of the 30s. On March the 4th, 1929, Herbert Hoover was inaugurated as the 31st President of the United States. In the fall, around October the 24th, stock prices began to drop dramatically, and the volume of trading broke all previous records. Economists, bankers, and politicians believed that the economy was still sound and the market would soon recover. Secretary Andrew Mellon insisted that the stock market problem was an illness that would run its course and cure itself. It went from better to worse. Unemployment increased and construction activities decreased. In an effort to reverse the tide, Richard Whitney, Vice President of the Exchange, was sent to the floor to purchase millions of dollars worth of key stock. This helped for a little while. But on October the 28th, 1929, which, by the way, was on my birthday, prices again started downward. On October the 29th, the bottom fell out of the stock market. By the end of the day, a record of 16,410,000 shares had been sold. The total loss in value exceeded $8 billion. Thousands of investors saw their fortunes wiped out. After the Wall Street crash of 1929, across the country, more than 1,000 banks failed in 1930. Two of Lindsborg's Kansas banks closed their doors. In October of 1930, the National State Bank closed, and in December, the Commercial State Bank. People were in an uproar and greatly distressed. Even though many had deposits in the bank, their checks were no good. It was just before Christmas, and there was no money to purchase supplies, let alone gifts. This happened just before tax time. Some had already paid their personal taxes at the bank, but the bank had not sent their paid taxes to the county treasurer. These unfortunate people had to pay their taxes for a second time. September and October of 1931 brought more trouble. A bank panic spreads across the country. 830 banks closed in 2 months, and individuals started to hoard gold. More than 2,000 banks failed in 1931. In Kansas, about 100 banks closed during these 2 years.
How many?
100. The economy situation continues to worsen. The wheat crop in 1931 was very good, but the prices were terrible. Wheat sold for 25 cents per bushel. The average wheat yield for McPherson County 50 to 60 years ago was around 13 to 14 bushels per acre. The gross income of 1 acre of wheat, which yielded 20 bushels, would have been only $5. A wagon load of wheat, 55 bushels, delivered to the elevator, brought $13.75. In 1932, the grain prices were as follows: corn 20 cents per bushel, barley 20 cents, Kaffir or Milo 18 cents per bushel, and oats 15 cents per bushel. Fat steers in Kansas City sold for 4.5 to 5 cents a pound. I sold 44 head of pigs for 2.5 cents per pound. In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president. He came into office when the nation was in Great Depression. He took heroic measures to master the situation, his program being known as the New Deal. Between Roosevelt's election on November the 8th, 1932, and his inauguration on March the 4th, 1933, conditions in the nation deteriorated. By Inauguration Day, it was estimated that almost 1/3 of the labor force was out of work. Many who had jobs were working for as little as 10 cents an hour. The run on banks became acute as nearly $1 billion were withdrawn the 2 weeks preceding March 4th. By 1933, the banking system was in crisis. On March the 5th, Roosevelt declared a national bank holiday, closing all banks. During the 9-day moratorium, federal and state officials examined all banks. Those that were in good condition were certified and reopened. All but 42 of the more 600 banks in Kansas were reopened after the bank holiday. Agriculture distress in the Depression directly affected the banks. The farm economy was in the most serious position that I have ever seen. The highest unemployment figure ever was 24.9% jobless rate recorded at the height of the Depression in 1933. Malnutrition was a fact of life in every part of the country. 1933 was the beginning of the worst drought the country had seen, which started in April and continued through the summer months. The drought caused dust storms that at times could be seen across half the nation, and that converted much of the Great Plains into a dust storm. In February of that year, I purchased a load of choice feeder steer calves. Their average weight was 497 pounds at $4.25 per pound at the Kansas City stockyards.
$4.25 per
a pound.
A pound?
Right. And they were choice feeder calves. They weighed just a little under 500 pounds. $4.25 a hundred.
100 instead of a pound.
Well, no, that'd be $4.25.
Oh, $425. A what? What was the price again that you paid for them?
4 cents.
Oh.
Well, it'd be 4.25 cents.
4.25 cents.
Mhm.
Yeah, cents a pound.
Yeah,
A
that'd
pound.
be $4,
A hundred.
4.5 a hundred.
Yes.
Just think what they're selling now. And that was at the Kansas City stockyards, and I had them shipped home here. May 1933 brought very little rain. The hot winds from the south and the high temperatures deteriorated the crops. June, July, and August set high temperatures, records that have not been broken for more than 50 years. We had a hen that laid her eggs in the hayloft. She did not set on them, but they hatched out because the temperature was 100 degrees and above for a period of 45 days. It did not cool off enough in the hayloft at night to affect the hatching of the eggs. The pastures started burning up from the heat and were short of grass for the cattle. The crops in 1933 were a disaster. It was the most lean year that I can recall. Our stock cows were wintered on wheat straw with some molasses mixed with water and poured on the straw. The grain crops were a failure. In the spring of 1934, the dust storms became more severe. We had had several dust storms from the south and west that came in during the night, but the first one I can recall during the daylight hours was on March the 21st, the first day of spring. In the morning, the sun was shining brightly. The dust had started to drift in from western Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, and Texas. By 10 a.m., we could not see the sun. There was no daylight. We lit the lamps in the house. The chickens went to roost as it became so dark. By 6 p.m., it started to clear up, so we could see part of the sun. There was so much dust everywhere. We put wet rags and towels in the windows to help keep some of the dust out. The house was filled with real estate, and it was hard to breathe. During the drought years of 1934, there were 64 million acres listed as failed and no crop harvested. That year, incidentally, was the worst ever for acres failed in the United States, a record that has not been broken and is well remembered by the Kansas City Board of Trade. 1936 brought an invasion of the grasshoppers. We were fortunate that they did not arrive early in the spring, so we had a fair wheat crop. By wheat harvest time, there were millions of grasshoppers devouring all green vegetation. We tried to control them with poison bran to no avail. The corn crop was completely destroyed. They ate the leaves of the trees, so many died. The winter of 1936 and 37, we had severe cold weather. The ground was covered with a sheet of ice for several weeks. Hauling feed to livestock was a problem, as the horses would slip on the ice. There was also a shortage of feed due to the grasshopper invasion. By 1940, Kansas had only half as many banks as in 1920. Many banks folded or merged with other banks. Lindsborg had 3 banks before the Depression. Only one survived. No wonder the Lindsborg community was hard hit and had many problems to solve. In these dark days of the 30s and the Depression, to my knowledge, there were no hospital insurance, no employment checks, and no riots. I am amazed.
Now, so it was first the stock market crash, then the drought, and then the grasshoppers that made that a terrible decade. But apparently the drought, that dust, as I understand, was due to after the First World War, wasn't the price of wheat very high, so a lot of land was broken, and in Kansas at least, and and sown to wheat. Do you know much about that?
That's right. You see, wheat went up. They got a good price for it, and most of that ground
Mm-hmm.
west,
Mm-hmm.
was in grass, and that they broke it up, planted wheat,
Mm-hmm.
and that brought in a whole lot more money.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the
Do you see
problems. Well, then of course we got that drought,
Mm-hmm.
and of course all that wind,
Mm-hmm.
and when it was grass, covered with grass, why it didn't take hold of the wheat. The ground.
Does are there any similarities between the farm situation now and what it was in those days? That is, a lot of farmers are in serious trouble, today, financially, economically, it seems to me that a lot of farmers borrowed a lot of money when the prices were rather high to expand, and now they're in trouble.
Well, when we think of the Depression, they always refer to the Depression years ago, That Depression was entirely different from the Depression we have now.
Mm-hmm.
You see, then people were poor.
Mm-hmm.
The stock market, and people were working, like I said, for 10 cents an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we were poor because we didn't raise no grain.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a different story. Now we have too much grain.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a lot of people suffering now, like farmers and
Mm-hmm.
things pertaining to farming, because otherwise there's a lot of people that don't suffer
Mm-hmm.
at this time.
Yes, but it was a lot of people in general, besides not just the farmers that were in serious trouble. All over the country.
You mean in the Depression?
In the Depression.
Right.
Yes. And now it's just more or less, the one group, the farmers that are in serious trouble. I understand considerable about the bean family. Would you tell us something about did you work for or rent farm some of the bean land at one time?
Yes, I rented that farm
Mm-hmm.
for 18 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know a whole lot about it, but
There was a grandfather bean, wasn't there?
yes,
What was his
first bean. Now I don't remember what his name was, but he came here from Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and he settled close to Lindsborg.
That would have been before the Civil War, probably, right?
Well,
Or
I'm not sure
It
about
was very early then.
it. Was very early.
Yes, okay.
And he had a lot of land,
Mm-hmm.
and he built a home there, and he had a boy and a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And his boy was J.W. Bean.
Mm-hmm.
And his daughter married, let's see, what was the name?
Jenkins?
No,
Forsland? Or no?
maybe I'll
Duncan. Duncan.
That's right.
Duncan.
His daughter married Duncan,
Mm-hmm.
and then his boy, I don't know the lady he married.
Mm-hmm.
So he divided the farm. He gave J.W. the bean farm, what is the bean farm today, and then his daughter he gave what they call the Jenkins place today.
Mm-hmm. It's known as the Jenkins place today.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't stay here very long. They went back to Virginia.
The Duncans went
The
back to
Duncans.
Virginia.
Uh-huh. And but
And Jenkins,
J.W. he stayed.
Jenkins bought that place then, where
Right.
the Duncans
Mhm,
were.
That's right.
Were they joined together? What was
Well,
it?
they were just neighbors, yeah.
About 800 acres at first altogether, right?
Right,
Uh-huh.
right. And he sold the rest of it. So he divided among his daughter and his son, and then he sold
J.W.
it.
J.W.
The old
and,
one.
and Mrs.
So J.W. was his son.
Yeah. And did he eventually, is that place still in the family in some way?
Yes, still in the relation.
I see. So, Well, part of it is where you said, I think before when I talked to you, that Norman Bankston lives on part of the...
He owned them 2 quarters too.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Norman Bankston lives
Yeah.
now. That's right.
And then
Carmichael lives on the Jenkins place.
on the Jenkins place.
And he married Jenkins, Rodney Jenkins' daughter.
Yeah. And then, as you said earlier, your father-in-law worked for Bean.
Right.
And also the girl that he married, a Beckman,
Right.
the Beckman girl.
Yeah, they worked there for many years.
Mm-hmm. And J.W. Bean then had a couple of daughters, and one of the daughters married somebody in Salina, was it?
Right, they both married somebody from Salina. One married Milliken, he was an attorney, and Hageman, he was a banker.
I see, in Salina. Okay. Well, anything else that you can think of that you'd like to share with us? You certainly have done a wonderful job of writing down all of this information that you have about the past. It's remarkable that you've done that. We certainly do appreciate it. Anything else? And we will, I think we will, I know that you sing, don't you? And you how many years have you sung in the Messiah at the college?
I don't know how many years I've sang, but I started in 1925.
Started in 1925.
I can prove that because they gave these buttons then, you know. And I still got one of them buttons. I thought I started in 24, but I'm not sure. But I know I started.
So you probably sung over 50 years then.
Yeah, but I haven't
sung
straight through.
Straight through. There are years that you did.
I started to sing, and then of course my sweetheart, my wife, we sang for quite a while till we got married and had some little children. Then we quit a while, and then when my daughters grew up, when they were in high school, they wanted to sing, of course. Then I took them, and then we sang for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many years, but that's when I started.
I think it'd be well to know about your family. You have sons?
Yes.
One son or more than one?
I have one son.
One. What is his name?
His name is Dwayne.
Does he live near here?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then you have several daughters.
I have 2 daughters.
2 daughters. What are their names?
Well, Mary Ann, one daughter, and she got married to Robert Johnson. And
Robert Johnson.
That was his name, just the same name.
Where do they live?
They live now on a farm. Owns the Ace Plumbing in McPherson, him and another.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But they built a house out on the farm, and it's just a mile. Well, it's 2 miles east to Lindsborg and a mile south. I mean, a half mile south.
So this is Mary Ann's.
That's Mary Ann, and she teaches school. She's taught school now for 20 years.
In McPherson?
In Galva.
In Galva.
Galva, Kansas.
And then your other daughter?
They have one boy. They have one son, Douglas, and he's with Robert in the plumbing business. And they had one daughter, Nancy. And Nancy, she got married in December this year. She graduated from Bethany College, and she was a short-term missionary to Africa. She went to Switzerland to learn the language, and then she spent 2 years as a missionary in Zaire, Africa. And when she went to Bethany College, for one summer she was the manager for a Lutheran camp in Texas. And let's see, before that she went down to Tennessee among the poor people there.
Oh, she's done a lot of social work, religious work.
And she got married to a feller they're both in the seminary.
Now, what was this daughter's name?
Nancy.
Nancy
Nancy
So
Johnson.
Mary Ann and Nancy. And her husband now is He's a seminarian or
Yeah.
a minister?
He isn't through yet.
What's his name?
Tim Anderson.
Tim Anderson.
Timothy Anderson.
Timothy Anderson. Mhm.
Then my other daughter, that's Marjorie.
Oh, $3.
No,
Two.
I just named
Oh.
one.
Oh, Marianne.
Wait.
Oh. Marjorie is the second daughter.
That's my second daughter. She lives in Chicago. Well, both of the girls went to North Park College, our church college.
Mhm.
And she graduated there. She was a nurse. And she got married. She found a fella in Chicago and got married to. And his name happened to be Phil Johnson.
Oh.
So he's in the paving business.
Hmm.
But his brother, and then they have one son that's attending Illinois College, and then they have one daughter that's a senior in high school, and one son that's junior in high school.
Hmm.
And Dwayne, he's the youngest. He got married to Carol Hindershot, and they have two boys. One is 11, and one is 7.
Very good. Now, I understand that you raise seaweed.
Yes.
This is your main crop now?
Well, on our wheat, most of our wheat is these last years have seaweed.
Mhm.
I started to raise certified wheat in the 1940s. And then I raised certified wheat and oats and barley. But I didn't continue very long on the oats and barley because it isn't very much demand for it.
Yeah.
So I just turned
Mhm.
only plant and raise certified wheat.
What brand or what are the?
Well, we try to stay with the new brands that Kansas Crop releases. So you see say a certain crop or variety of wheat maybe be good for so many years, and they try to improve it, and then they release some other new wheat. And being a certified grower, the certified growers have first chance of getting wheat. I have to tell you about this.
Oh yes.
I was surprised one day. County agent come down here, and he wanted a few records of my wheat. And I asked him, how come? Well, he said, you've been picked as being the certified wheat grower of Kansas.
For Kansas.
For Kansas.
That's quite an honor.
Well,
This was in 1970.
1970. And I know I told the secretary there that I'm just a small wheat grower. I mean, I don't sell thousands and thousands of bushels. And he told me, he said, you're the only feller from Kansas this year that's worthy of this award. He said, because you raise pure wheat. And I can remember one time when he was certifying my fields, we buy foundation wheat planted, and then we have to keep clean,
Yes.
the seed clean. And when he come out that year, they step off so many feet, maybe 100 feet one place, then they count the wheat and they all tie heads and all that. Then it goes to another place, and then he asked me, he said, hey, he said, did you get this wheat from us last year, foundation wheat? No, he said. No, I said, it's the same wheat that I started out with. Well, he said, you sure kept it pure. And maybe that's why I won this thing.
But you sell to farmers around here,
Right. Farmers, well, I've sold to different places. I've sold certified wheat to at least 5 different states.
Mm-hmm. 5 different states.
Mm-hmm. I know one time I sold a big truckload, 450 bushels to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, how in the world did you know I had seed wheat? And he said, well, we called Kansas crop. Mm-hmm. And he said they recommended your wheat. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I've sold wheat in Missouri.
Very good. Oh, we thank you, Sidney, very much for all the time that you've given us this afternoon and the work that you've done on writing these histories.
Tryggare kan ingen vara än Guds lilla barnaskara. Stjärnen ej på himlen fäster, fågeln ej i kända näster. Herren sina trogna vardar ut i Sions helga gårdar. Över dem han sig förbarmar, bär dem upp på faders armar. Ingen nöd och ingen lycka skall ut ur hans hand dem rycka. Ty han älskar sina vänner och de sinas nöd han känner. Gladig då du lilla skara, Jakobs Gud skall dig bevara. För hans vilja måste alla fiender till jorden falla. Vad han tar och vad han giver, samma fader han förbliver. Och hans mål är blott det ena, barnet sanna väl alena. För mig han ensam sörja